Doctors, you want to improve your retention, get your staff involved. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. I'm joined by my co-host, Marisa Mateja. Marisa, how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Our podcast is all about giving you guys out there, you doctors out there, hard-hitting, real business strategies every single week. So this week, incredibly important. Tune in because we're going to tell you how you can create a staff that helps drive your practice, not just do tasks. So, Marisa, you found some statistics. Share that.
It's amazing how a well-trained CA can help a practice. And so what I have located is
Trained?
trained.
We have to
Yes.
train them?
Yes, you can't just throw them in and hope they rise to the top. So you have to actually spend some time with them. But what we have found is that CAs who are well-trained can increase retention. And we talk about patient retention all the
All the
time.
time.
Can increase patient retention by over 30% in your practice. Who
That's great.
wouldn't want that? That's amazing, right? So I think it's important, maybe critical, that we
Critical's a good
actually
term.
spend time with our chiropractic assistants and not just train them, but set really good expectations about what we want out of their training. I think that's a key component that's missed sometimes when we're talking about training and things. It's, hey, I'm going to have you watch these videos. What does that tell your CA? Why are they watching them? What do you want to get out of them? What do they need to implement once they have this information? There's so much more to just, hey, sit down and watch some training. And I think we miss the mark sometimes in our offices because we don't set clear, powerful expectations that
Agreed.
CAs can follow.
Yeah,
So I think it's incredibly
thoroughly
important.
agree. It is important. And I think training your staff to help with retention and your 30% number, I'm going to say that's probably a minimum improvement you could see in retention.
Sure.
Sure. I know in our practice, I think you guys as staff were probably more critical in the process of retaining patients. And we had a huge retention rate. We had a retention rate of 96%.
Yeah.
We really didn't need new patients every month because of it. But I think that was more because of you guys in the office than it was me.
I think there's a few things there. I think you focused early on retention, training, the whys behind things, and if we do it certain ways, what the outcomes will be. And so I'd throw it back at you and ask you, what drew you to helping us as CAs really focus on that?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of that insight that I had was because I had spent 10 years in investment banking prior to chiropractic. And in that arena and in the role I was in, training was imperative. It was paramount to our success. And it wasn't just training. And you've heard me say this a million times, Marisa, but there's a difference between teaching and training and telling somebody to sit down and read a manual, read some procedures, watch a video. That's teaching. Okay. So what do you do in school? You have a teacher who shows you a concept. You might go read a book about it. You might practice some math equations to help reinforce it. You take a test, you forget it. That's teaching. Training is something totally different. Training is what you do. And I think this is also part of where my mentality with this comes from. Because I was an athlete also, I understood the importance of training. You don't just go out and learn new plays to bring out onto the field one day and you're good at it. You have to have the repetition and the practice with it. And so I brought those concepts into our practice with the idea that the more we did that, the better we would get, and the better we would get, the more success we would have, which I think is a different approach than what a lot of our profession thinks of as success. We have a tendency to measure success based on the number of patients we see and the number of new patients that walk in the front door.
Yeah.
But if they're all walking out the back door and you're just killing yourself trying to see a high volume of people and not making any money, that is an absolute chaotic strategy, and it's never going to get you anywhere. And unfortunately, we see lots and lots of doctors doing that and
Yeah.
trying to do that, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so when you close the back door, so to speak, and you teach your staff, you train your staff, you develop your staff, and you practice those concepts over and over until it's just perfectly done.
Yeah.
And then you continue to innovate and build on it over time. That's the whole idea of mastery. We don't
Yeah.
ever get perfect. We continue to master concepts over time. Then the team itself gets better and better. And I think we saw that in our practice.
I agree. I think there was clear expectations set. I
Mhm.
think we executed very good training sessions to the point where,
We took the time to do them too.
yeah. And then yes, that's a key factor, I think, in this is
We got to take a
spending,
break here in a second. I want to come back to that.
spending the time doing that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And the expectations too. So we're talking today about developing your staff into helping you build a practice that is based on retention, not just new patient volume. And so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
In today's economy, every dollar counts. Families are facing tough choices, having to reconsider what was once essential to them. But when it comes to healthcare, no one should have to compromise on their well-being because of financial constraints. That's where Chirohealth Health USA steps in, the solution for your practice. We understand the financial pressures families are under, whether they're insured, on Medicare, or paying out of pocket for treatment. By offering discounts on care, you can ensure that your patients can still afford the treatment they need. At Chiropractic Health USA, we're committed to making sure no family has to sacrifice their health due to financial hardship. We'll work with you to create a game plan that keeps your waiting room full and your practice thriving. And here's the best part. Offering affordable care not only benefits your patients, but also positively impacts your bottom line. So why wait? Join Chiropractic Health USA today and join the ranks of the most successful practices. Because when you put your patients first, everyone wins.
All right, we are back. Thank you to our sponsors. We are back. We're talking about, Marissa, we're talking about retention strategies built around team development. And we started talking about a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is the time requirement to make this happen. And everybody shies away from this. Oh my gosh, it's going to take time. That means I can't have that huge volume of patients coming in that I know is killing me, but I don't know what else to do.
I think it's all about scheduling. It's being
course it is.
prepared. That's what it boils down to. And being scared to lose those numbers tells you immediately you need the retention in your practice. And so I think it's stepping back and saying, okay, if we plan this a couple weeks out, most of us can plan around that. So if you have that time blocked in your calendar, and through CATS, we do a lot of virtual seminars because it's shorter amount of times to be out of the practice. It's really being able to plan ahead because we have those set for you. It's not having to drive anywhere, be somewhere with a big group of people and try to show off egos and everything else. I hate to say that, right? Whatever.
That's true.
It's true. You don't have to show up your numbers. You don't have to do anything. All you're doing is focusing inward
On
versus
your practice.
outward. And so we spend those days in those virtual seminars truly working on how do we build up what you have right in front of you, right? So that time that's spent is super easy to plan around. It's super easy to put on your schedule, and it's easy to schedule patients before that day and right after that day. So will you have a couple days around that maybe, I don't know, have a few more patients on it? Sure, I hope so.
Right.
But you're not giving up full days. You still have the afternoon to be able to see patients. So we've thought this through immensely, if you can't tell, on how to really spend that time. And so I think it's important to know that what you get from that time is team members that become an integral part in patient retention, and they understand the whys, and they learn the communication, and they have those abilities then to really hopefully retain those patients in your practice for a lifetime.
hmm
I mean,
Your
that's
your
the
team
goal.
and your team members become much more valued. They feel valued in the practice, so they want to get
Well,
better too.
they become not a task doer. They become, like I said, that person that's really there to help you transform your practice.
Become a
They're
partner.
Yeah, they're an integral part in everything that you do at that point. And we found that we had staff members that stayed with us for years and years.
Yeah,
Yeah. Why? Because we were brought into the practice, not just there to work at the practice.
you weren't working in the practice; you were always working on it. We say
Yes.
that all the time. I want to talk about a strategy that we utilized, and we still utilize this in our CATS consulting with patients today, and our consulting with our clients. Sorry, and that strategy was we had specific times set aside throughout the year that were designed for just team development. So here's how it worked. Every week we had a staff meeting, as many of you out there probably do, but our staff meetings had meaning, they had structure to them. And they were typically anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour every week. However, once a month, we had one that was about 2 hours long. And so we really allowed ourselves to dive into things a little bit better and to catch up on our action steps and so forth, pulling us towards our goals. And then every quarter, we had an all day session.
Yeah.
And I heard half of you in the audience out there just fall out of your chair. How in the world can I take an entire day off? Did you do it on a Saturday? No, we did it during the week. But this is important. We would schedule around it because we would put these dates on the calendar way ahead of time. And so it wasn't a scramble at the last minute. It was very simple. So the day before, the day after would be incredibly busy, which was always fun. Those are those days that kind of stretch you a little bit and let you see what you can really do. But more importantly, it allowed us to have time set aside where a lot of times we could actually get out of the office. We weren't bothered by the phones and those kind of things. And we did team development. Part of it was developing strategy, perfecting and innovating strategy. Part of it was personal development, whether it's personality test or we go to a ropes course, or one time we went to an escape room and you and I almost figured it out.
Almost. So
We came
close.
close, but those times were incredibly important because we got to see how we worked and interacted with each other outside of the clinic. And it just built bigger and stronger bonds amongst all of us and a deeper understanding of how we work together and how to use our strengths and weaknesses to our advantage.
Yeah. And it's huge when you know how other team members communicate, what their personalities are brought into that communication. And all of a sudden, you're able to work better with the individuals that are around you. And I think that's really important too. So, part of this training and things that we have to do is learning each other, like you just said. And those
Exactly.
events helped dramatically with those kind of things.
Mm.
And learning who each other were really helped in that process of being able to say, okay, I know how to lead them better, or I know how to communicate better with them. And then all of a sudden, we could tailor almost the communication that they were going to be doing with patients, which
Right.
also helped in all the processes, right? Is having that great communication with patients and being able to then connect with them on a deeper level.
Exactly. And the antithesis to that part, to what we did by setting aside time is, and I see a lot of you out there doing this, is doctor shows up 5 minutes before patient care starts or 5 minutes after. They're in patient care at lunch. They jolt out of the practice to go to lunch. They grab a sandwich or something. They come back right when patients start again. And at 5 o'clock, they're out, the first one out the door, and they never really spend any time interacting with their staff. And their idea is the staff's here to do tasks. I'm here to do patient care. And there's basically a moat in between. I think a lot of docs think there's alligators in that moat or something because they refuse to cross through it. And you just can't run a business like that and expect that huge uber level of success
Mhm.
that can be attained in this profession. And then they wonder why, gosh, I don't understand why patients are leaving care. It's because your staff doesn't have a connection between the treatment plan and the patient. So all the staff's doing is talking to the patient about the weather. And so there's no relationship built there. And patients, today's consumer, today's patient needs to have a relationship, not only with the doctor, but with the staff too,
Yeah.
and really with the culture of the practice. It's so far reaching. That's a whole nother podcast. But when the doctor just vanishes when it's time, when there's time to spend it, a little bit of time with staff, your practice is going to suffer from that because you never have that interaction about what are patients saying? Why did so and so drop out of care? Why did they have financial issues? Why did they not come back after the report of findings? All those things that happen. Why is insurance not paying us well? Oh, I didn't know we were getting bundled on these services. Had I known, I could have changed what I was doing. And it just creates this huge divide between the doctor and the staff.
Well, and just what you said, you just listed off a ton of expectations.
Right.
Right there, the expectations matter in what we're doing. It aligns us to be able to realize what's happening in the practice and what the effects are on the practice as we're moving forward. So everything you just said is aligning all of those things. It's asking the questions to staff so that they get engaged in what's happening. So I think questioning staff and having I wouldn't say holding their feet to the fire, but it's really engaging them into what's happening in the practice with our patients, those kind of things.
So we need to take another break, but I want to come when we come back. I want to talk about expectations. Let's talk about our 88 example. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
As an example of how to set expectations and let it pull you to success. So we'll be right back.
Pat's Chiropractic Consultants, your partner in chiropractic success. We are dedicated with one-on-one guidance to bring you all your practice management needs. Let's supercharge your practice. Give us a call today.
Okay, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. Marisa and I are talking today about improving retention and a whole bunch of other things in the practice that come along with that, like revenue and collections, et cetera, et cetera. But improving retention by developing your staff, not just teaching them how to do tasks. And Marisa, before the break, we were talking a little bit about expectations. I personally think that's one of the things that we were really good at doing was not only setting expectations, but breaking them down into the smallest, simplest numbers to manage. And I think that made the reality of reaching goals a whole lot more objective and simple for our team rather than just saying, hey, we want to increase collections this year by $150,000 and nobody can see that number.
Yeah. And you you have to break it down to those smaller denominators too. What does that
Right.
mean per hour? A couple more patients? What does it mean? Like, how do we actually get there? And then what are the steps that we're going to take to actually do that? Is it helping to keep people on treatment plans? Is it talking about wellness the whole time? Is it making sure that wellness patients are scheduled out? All of these little things then build up. But I think that's setting at your expectations, and I think you set your expectations from the very beginning. Starting with people coming on, do you have a great onboarding process? Is your onboarding process, "Here, sit next to Susie, she's gonna show you what to do," or do you actually have steps laid out on a checklist of the things that they must master, they must
Steps.
understand? It's steps,
Steps.
getting them
That's huge.
yeah, it's educating them along the way, but then training them. So we're doing both. We're learning and we're training to get them to the point that they need to be at so that they understand the whys of what we're doing and what our ultimate goals are so that we can align that good communication to patients and we can align the treatment plan to what their goals are as patients and all of those things that kind of go into all that. So I think there's not just setting expectations, but it's having good step by step plans in place.
Yeah. Yeah. So many years ago, we were early on in practice. I was getting frustrated because I felt like we were stuck. We were stuck at a number of patient visits per day. And I don't mind sharing it. It was 44. We were just stuck at 44. And I'm not saying we were stuck for years. We were stuck for a couple of months. And I wanted to see that growth. And I knew I needed the team to help me with that. And so I just came in one day and I think I freaked all of you guys out. I said, I'm tired of being at 44. I want to go to 88. And you all just looked at me and I said, we're going to meet at lunch today. Bring in lunch. If we can block the schedule a little bit, we need a little extra time. Yes, we blocked the schedule, docs, so we could make this happen.
Absolutely.
So during that meeting, I laid out just my thought process. And between Marisa and I, we created the steps to get there. Now, it wasn't going from 44 to 88 overnight. The steps were, let's go from 44 to 55, and then from 55 to 66, and then from 66 to 77. You get the math. And we broke that down. Marissa said a minute ago, we broke that down into how many more patients is that a day? How many more patients is that per day part, morning or afternoon? How many more patients is that per hour? And it worked out to be something silly like one more patient per hour or something, or 3 per day part. I don't remember exactly what the number was. I'd have to go back and recalculate it, but it was something ridiculous. And I think we all laughed at how simplistic that was.
Yeah.
And truly within a couple of weeks, we went from 44 to 55 just by doing that. And
Well,
then
it's using those metrics to help you get a clear picture. And I
get a
think
clear
that's
picture.
another aspect that we miss is bringing staff into those metrics.
Yep.
And when we show them and we talk about maybe some of the other things that we're hearing from patients or what's the roadblocks to care, those kind of things, and then having a plan around some of the roadblocks, all of those things come together when you understand the metrics and what we're aiming for and all
Yep.
of that. So I think, docs, that's a huge part to factor in to making sure your staff understand some of those things.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
don't shy away from them just because I'm gonna have to show them some of my numbers or whatever. We see the numbers. I'm telling you as staff, you're not
Of course you
hiding
do.
anything. We
Of
know,
course you do.
maybe we don't know the whys or the hows behind it. And I do think that's where once you do understand that, then you jump forward.
The only numbers your staff isn't privy to are some of the expenses, especially payroll. But even that doesn't matter. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
the more they know, the better they can be a revenue generating partner in the practice. And so on our trek to get to 88, and I'm telling you guys, we did this in 4 months.
Yeah.
And Marissa would tell me every day where we were. And she would tell me, okay, we made it to 55. Okay, we made it to 77. And then all of a sudden, one day, she comes up to me and says, I think we made the goal. And I said, okay, awesome. Now we need to set the next goal. And Marissa backed up and said, no, we blew through the goal. We never did hit 88. We went to 108.
Yeah, we jumped way up.
We jumped way up. And so the whole process of doing the steps begins to parlay on itself
Yeah.
when you do it that simplistically. And all of a sudden, we're at 108 patient visits per day, not per week, per
Yeah.
day.
Per day.
We were at 108 patient visits per day. And we stayed there and we bounced around between about 95 and 120 almost every day.
But we also had a team, highly trained,
Yep.
understood the goals, understood the metrics, understood all of those things that go into it, and stayed on top of procedures.
We were
Make
constantly
sure.
innovating our procedures so that they kept up with us.
Yeah, because sometimes we were ahead of where procedures even took us. So
Right.
sometimes we needed to reinvent the procedure just to
Right.
keep up with the practice. And so I think it's just important. Those slow down days, those days that we were talking about, like for our clients, it's the virtual days that we build into your practice that you slow down. You have to take a day every quarter and really pay attention. And these are the things that you practice. These are the things you
Yep.
talk about. These are the things that you work on so that everything's clear, right? So
Right.
we know what clear procedures we're doing. that are going to get us to the next goal. We know the whys behind those procedures and why we're doing those things. We know good communication with patients.
Yep.
Everything factors in. And the doc has set really good expectations for those of us on the staff to be able to hit those goals.
And I had to be just engaged in those steps, getting to our goals as I expected my team to be.
Yeah.
So doctors, you have to lead the process. You can't just dump it in your staff's lap and walk away from it and expect them to do all the work. You have to lead the process, which means you have to pull them along. Now, there are times when they push you along too, but you have to work as a team and you're the head of the team, so to speak. And I want to make mention of something. So at CATS Consultants, one of the things that we do that has been incredibly successful and I think incredibly innovating, because we were the first ones to do it, are the virtual seminars that we put on.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me the other day, so you guys started doing that because of the pandemic, right? Nope. We actually started those about 2.5 years before the pandemic.
2017 was our first virtual seminar, and
3 years.
we had insight into that was a better way to do it. Listen, I think there's still huge value in getting together, and that's why we do doctor retreats. There's huge value in bringing people together, like-minded individuals. Absolutely still think there's huge value in face-to-face, all of those things. However, on an individual practice basis, and when you're working to improve your team morale, team cohesiveness, whatever you want to call it, all of those things come together. You need focused time. And
Right.
at big seminars and those kind of things, you lose the focus. You're
Totally.
really focused on what are they doing over there and what are they doing over there. And I'm not saying you can't learn from each other, but on the virtual seminars, we learn from each other also. We have
Yeah.
times for everybody to chat and send us information and we talk through things. But it's a different thing because you have that focus inward. And I feel like that's such a valuable thing for everyone to have in their practice, is that time to focus inward.
It is. We used to go to seminars and things and they were great, but
But I never saw you through the whole day.
through the whole day. Yeah. And
We'd learn something and want to talk about it, but we couldn't do it right then. And then we'd
Right.
write stuff down, but then when we got back to the practice, we never had time to talk about it. And
Right.
so
And
we lost it
Yep.
by the time we made it back to the practice.
And 75% of the time I was teaching some of those classes. And so I was completely disengaged from what you guys were learning.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to our staff meeting the next week, the luster had worn off. With our virtual seminars, the luster is real. It's right now. And you get to begin developing your own steps to strategy and goals immediately.
You could even pause us
It wasn't true.
and talk through stuff. That's the
Funny.
cool part of it. Yeah, that's the cool part of it. Everything goes back to you got to set expectations. You've got to set good training sessions for everyone on your team.
And
So
don't
that
be
you-
afraid to do that.
And you got to be able to just block the schedule and say, hey, we're doing this.
Right. So, doctors, it's time to improve your retention through staff development, not teaching them tasks, but true staff development. If you need help with that, we have an incredibly robust staff training and development program. We have so many tools and access to so much information for you and your team. So plug into what we're doing. If you want to check us out, go to catsconsultants.com. It's not CATS, it's KATS.
It's KATS.
KATS. So catsconsultants.com. Go check us out. We're doing some great things for doctors out there. Marisa, we've got some free downloads on there too.
Yep. You can check out some of our old virtual and see how those play into your practice. There's a ton of resources just at your fingertips.
Yep. And here's a little secret. At the top of our website, there's a little button called Let's Chat. If you click on it, you'll have our calendars open up to you. So if you want to talk about your practice and how maybe we can plug in, no pressure. We just want to see doctors do well in this profession. And sometimes there's just a few little business strategies that need to be brought into your practice to make that happen. So go check us out. Let's talk about it. And Marisa, thanks for being on here today as always. And what's that?
I said, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime, you know that. And so from all of us here at CATS Consultants, I want to thank Chiro Health USA for being a sponsor of our podcast. We love you guys. And to all of you out there, make sure you subscribe and like this program. We are growing like crazy, but it's because of you. So we appreciate all of you out there. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.